Hello, everyone. Sorry. Welcome to the Wallifornia Virtual Summit 2020. It's now time for our next panel. It will be around music tech and fan engagement. Our awesome panelists are Yvan Boudillet, founder at The Link, Jean-Yves Reumont, communication and production at Les Ardentes, Ventura Barba, executive director at Sónar, Andrew Melchior, founder at Third Space Agency, and finally Sarasara, the awesome musician. So guys, thank you very much for being with us, and the stage is yours.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Super glad to kick off this new panel with exciting speakers with us. We're going to talk about fan engagement with a bunch of creative technologists now, with people within the music space. Guys, I will let you introduce yourself when we will start the conversation. So with further ado, my first question to you to introduce this panel is, for you, from your perspective, what are the new forms of fan engagement in terms of innovation, in terms of creativity, but also in terms of what kind of technology is at stake here? Because I would say when it's all about fan engagement, it's in between experience, but also some kind of technical aspect, like dealing with data, dealing with feedback loops, whatever. So each of you, maybe we will start with, let's say, Jean-Yves, because it's Wallifornia / Les Ardentes. So we would have been at Les Ardentes pretty much now, and we miss also Sónar so much. Fan engagement, what does it mean from a festival perspective? And for you?
Yeah, hello everyone. But it means a lot of things. At first, I would say to stay in touch with the festival goers all year long. That's a pretty basic stuff, but that's the main thing we're trying to reach when we're talking fan engagement. Is just, okay, the festival is in July, but we want to talk with our community and build this community all year long. And so once again, the basic stuffs are, of course, social media. It's from Facebook, TikTok, now Instagram. We have a quite young audience at Les Ardentes, from between 16 to 25. That's the average age of our festival goers. So they're very, they use these socials to communicate all year long. So that's mainly our basic stuff. It's social media, and of course all the data that we can get from those socials and from our ticketing info to get more, to be more precise on what we can target on our marketing. So that's how we work for engagement. But within this special year, without festival, we are of course starting to look at other ways and maybe more innovative ways to communicate with the festival goers without seeing them this year. For example, we will hold tomorrow a concert with one of our one artist, Aiko, in a virtual world. Everybody talked about the Travis Scott things on in Fortnite. So we're gonna try to do like a Fortnite look-alike, some kind of Fortnite gaming engagement with our festival goers during this live performance of ICO. So that's the new things we're trying to do this year. But it's of course because we don't have real live action on site this year, and so we will have to look for new and more creative way to engage the festival goer live during the action, because as I said, our festival goers are pretty young, so it's like they have their phones instead of a hand, so they always have their phone in their hand. So, and maybe later they will have other tools with them all the time. So we have to think of new technology to engage them during the festival, to share their experience, and more than just social medias, and even maybe through our channels, just to get more of the data for ourselves instead of giving them to the social platforms.
Thanks, Jean-Yves. A lot of things here. I guess it's interesting that you started with, let's say, talking about marketing and social media, and something which becomes pretty important, and we're going to talk about also live experience during the live, the room for conversation, because this is part of the community aspect. We had the chance to have a keynote by Andrew just before this panel, talking about also the need to rethink the human factor of the music experience, and conversation is part of it, and social media is usually part of it. Ventura, from your perspective at Sónar, this is a broad question, but how do you build, because also maybe from a hands-on perspective, how do you build this engagement with your festival goers and your audience? Is it a yearly process, or is it really a peak during the festival?
Well, thanks everyone for the invitation. It has been a luxury. One of the few good things about this fucking COVID-19 has been having the pleasure to being in a lot of places that, because of the rush of the time, I've never had the chance to go. So now, even if it's through the Zoom, I can be in many places. So that's the only good thing about the COVID-19. So at Sónar, we have been putting together this festival for more than 27 years. We have always, it's a festival that it's very artistic centered. We try to put the best content together to appeal to our audiences, right? So, because this is how we make a living. So it's basically as simple as we put together content that some people like it, and it's a miracle, and they pay a ticket and they come to Barcelona every year and they experience everything that we have put together. So it's very complex, but it's very simple in a way. When you have a focus, it's like making sure that the artists that you like are in the great environment. It creates it's such an empty word right now, but it creates an experience that people like it. And besides that, everything is accessory, right? So we have had the luxury of working very hard many years, that people like what we put together and they give us credit. And they come to Sónar to learn, to experience, to discover new things, discover new artists. So it's a luxury. It's a trust that we have built with our community. But on the other hand, it's something that you have to renew on a yearly basis, right? So that's not something that you've been granted and that's it. In the music space, when you are having this trajectory, you need to renew your audiences pretty much. I mean, we have people that has been at Sónar since day one, since edition number one, but we may have his or her kids, or maybe his or her grandkids, right? So when in almost 30 years old, you have different generations that you need to engage. So music is like that. You need to renew your audience every year. So it's challenging. And it's rewarding, and people or our audience expect surprise from ourselves. And they expect us to push them a little bit forward, to move them from their comfort zone. So we engage with them in, we have dialogue, obviously, but it's not a product that I would say that we build together, because they expect us to surprise them. So what surprise would be if I ask you which artist do you want to see next year? It's our job, right? So
yes.
everyone has a commitment, and our commitment is making this thing. Obviously with clients, with fans, with our audience, but we don't. We have a responsibility, and we don't push our responsibility to our fans.
Interesting. Yeah, a matter of commitment, a matter of essence of what you bring to the table. And I like the idea of the content, but which is a lot of people are talking about experience becomes the core, the essence, and the other thing around are accessories, but are super important to make it happen, but more some kind of little rivers that connects to the big ocean of whatever.
What we consider a festival or Sónar, it's much more than a bunch of artists one after the other, right? It's sometimes we describe it more as a movie where they have a plot, where it's like high moments and down moments, and there is a finale. It's more about creating this journey. It's a 3-day journey or 4-day journey, but it's a journey that you should get in and get out different from what you were at the beginning, and having fun.
Having fun. Good one. Thanks, Ventura. And I can give a testimonial. I get most of you maybe in front of your screen may have experienced Sónar over the past years. For me, it's one of the best. I can tell. From a
fan, it's a great thing that you said that.
Yeah. From a metal fan, I can tell. Sarah, we want to hear, and also Andrew will also, I think, jump on in this one, but the artist perspective, because talking about a journey and some commitments, because I guess the kind of basic understanding of the commitment of an artist is to make music, right? But also to convey potentially a message. But also it seems that in the past 10 years, the relationship with the fans and the community management, like whatever you call it, has become more central for your career or even your daily life as an artist. Can you iterate or tell us a little bit more about behind the curtain? How does it mean to engage with your fans as an artist? Because I guess it's not only a promotion process, it's more than that. Is it about a conversation? Is it about a dialogue? Or can you just open the door of your fan engagement studio, whatever, for us? Tell us how it works for you.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just, like social media is like a very important part of what the work I put out. So for me, it's just like trying to get the best picture of, that represents my music. So whether it be like in the, quality of the content that I post, the wording, the images. And so you have to be like, you have to be like coherent, in whatever you post. And so I guess that social media is a big part of it. I've got a website as well that I'm coding myself for now. So that's a very big part of the job, and it's like one of the most important ways of connecting with the fans. Social media, the website, and then data is really important as well. Like you just like try to collect as much data as you can, know a bit more about the people you connect with. Try to get out like newsletters and stuff like that. Just like try to keep them informed and keep them engaged. With whatever you do, really. So I'm trying to do that, and it's just basically a community manager job.
Oh, full time on top of your artistry mission. Yes, right.
Yeah, I guess, but I'm lucky because I used to work as a project manager in IT for a long time before, and so I know how to code a couple of stuff, and I know how to do that kind of stuff. So I'm it's part of my job really, and I kind of enjoy it as well. So that's good. But yeah, I guess that it's just about, for me, it's just about like being faithful to the music that I write and the visual, and try to make it look coherent and not to confuse fans. And at least for me, because you've got like other artists that just like are on social media like all day posting stuff, and for me it's just not who I am, and I don't really like to do that. So
I think we could go for that part of the discussion for hours. Like, are the new breed of artists more like influencers than creators? Sometimes it's kind of confusing, or it's blurred lines. Some artists are more they have more followers for their gossip, for their music. I guess this is not what we want to talk here, but I think I'm going to keep one question, and Andrew, I'm coming to you for talking more about going back to a point of your keynote about bringing humanity and this kind of community aspect in the fan relationship. But for later on, keep in mind this question that because my mind is my memory is pretty tiny. This kind of data points you mentioned, Sarah, and for the group, let's keep that question like. Is data killing the vibe, the creative vibe? Like and also Ventura, you mentioned that, like taking into account fan feedback and request into the program machine on creativity. But before we tackle that one, Andrew, I would like to dive into more depth in this question you raised during your keynote about. Yes, technology is great. You are a technology expert. I love technology. This is part of my job as a consultant in mixing tech and music. But can you give us some examples, maybe, like to be more hands-on with the audience listening us, of some attempts to recreate some kind of community dialogue, feedback loop, using digital as a platform, like, because we talk a lot about Fortnite and Travis Scott, we talk a lot about XR, we talk a lot about that, but maybe there's some kind of more simple way to recreate conversation or a kind of a proximity relationship from an artist to an audience. Do you have some examples that of intimate moments or global scale community? You see what I mean when I want to lead the conversation? Because not talking about technology itself, but do you have example in mind over the past 3 years, or even some project you led that can be inspiring for us, the community, that managed to recreate this kind of sparkle of we feel like being not just sitting in front of our TikTok screen. You see what I mean?
Well, I think it's some of these issues are age-old issues of how people engage with each other. I think, to my mind, visually, things like VR and virtual environments and people having avatars and going around inside, fantastical things that are scenarios you can experience a kind of a simulated gig. This is okay, but I think it's still not creating a connection between the fans. It's creating a connection between the artist and the fan of sorts, but it's not creating a sense of community. Now, interestingly, the places where community really happen are some very old-fashioned technologies which are based around bulletin boards. So bulletin boards in the internet 90s and the early noughties, and news groups and places where fans can share gossip and photos and all those kind of things. Those are still really, to my mind, the most vibrant areas. And those things have evolved now to Instagram. I mean, Instagram is basically a bulletin board system with photos. You invite people to share comments and narrative underneath. I think one of the problems you have with that is the volume. So as an artist, especially if you're popular, the volume of commentary and narrative means that you can't at all ever deal with all of these comments and queries and insights and suggestions. So that can lead to a kind of suffocation and a bit of frustration, because as a fan, to be told that you've got the possible access to your hero or heroine, your artistic maven, and then to sort of add your comments on their posts on social media and things like that, it feels almost like counterintuitive. It's almost a bit futile, because the likelihood of them picking up on what you said and responding to it is very, very slim. One of the things I think is interesting to deliver some solutions possibly to that, but it's still synthetic, is this idea of chats. So this idea of machine learning and training a machine learning entity to sound a bit like the person who they're trying to reflect. So, I've seen various record labels try and build these kind of chat bots for Facebook Messenger and other platforms where you can interrogate this synthetic simulation of your favorite artists. I feel that those things are still lacking in sort of a humanity in a way. I think beyond the extraordinary developments in VR and AR, there's still this going back to some almost like basics, which is text and sharing information on news groups and things, is still seemingly to me to be the most vibrant place on the internet. The textual exchange amongst fans and those kind of things. I think the trouble with trying to fake things for the eyes and the ears is it's still elaborating with the very solo thing. It's highlighting that you're on your own. And I feel that there's still not really a solution yet that's convincing, that makes me feel like I'm sharing an experience with you and maybe a group of people. People are trying, but at the moment I haven't seen anything really that moves the dial further than it has been 25 years ago with news groups in a modern version. I've not seen anything beyond the machine learning kind of avatar-based thing that's the test ground for these chatbots at the moment.
Super interesting. Because when we're trying to go to look at through the crystal ball, everyone usually goes to the infinite world of VR, but you bring us back to text, and I think it's super interesting. I pretty share your point, Jean-Yves. Let me ask you told us that you prepare a great or a new kind of experience for your festival attendees with let's say metaverse, or virtual gig. What is maybe you don't want to spoil what it will look like, but what is the room for conversation, chat, interaction within this experience? Can you tell us?
Yeah, you're right. At the time, it's just people chatting in a box, because the world is there and it's quite pretty with 3D, great graphics. But when you want to talk with the others, it's just a chat box most of the time. So it's true that you're back 20 years, except that the environment is more beautiful. It's just people sharing, and as it's kind of a better version we're gonna try. It's only for a contest winner, so we're gonna have 200 people just chatting and sharing the experience together. But you're right. I was thinking that through the different social media that appears by the time, the best period is always at the beginning, when the artist is dealing his socials by itself. I remember the good old days of MySpace, for example, when you were really able to get in touch with the artist. You were sending a message through MySpace, and Justice or Kavinsky or the Arctic Monkeys at the very beginning were answering you. And you were just, oh my God, I'm just talking to them. And it was really the success of MySpace at the beginning, and then Facebook, and then some on Snapchat. And I see through the artists that are on our festival that the real success are when it's the artist dealing by itself is social. For example, you have a urban artist like Prime. He's very active on Snapchat, for example, and he's really talking with his audience, and it creates a a huge audience. But at the time, you cannot deal with it because, as Andrew said, it's too much. You cannot talk with 1 million fans or 100,000 fans. So it's difficult. But yeah, I don't know if a chatbot can. It's a good idea, the chatbot idea. But I have the feeling that every time the audience see, okay, I'm talking to a bot right now, and that's
yeah.
That's
sometimes artists talks like bot also, but
yeah,
organically, but that's not a problem.
When they know, okay, I'm talking, but they know they're not really talking to the artist. So okay, it's fun to talk to a bot that talks like the artist, but okay, I'm just talking to a bot, so it's a bit sad too.
It's funny to see that those chatbot thing has been like a super hype 2 years ago, but now it's like no one cares. But like I Am Pop or all of this, I think it might go back.
We can still do it at Les Ardents. Just for example, I'm working on booking the artist with the director of the festival, but I'm also in charge of communication, and I'm taking a part of my time just really answering the people on social medias and on just by myself. And I think it's really interesting for my job to really talk to the people and having their feedback about the lineup or the experience. And it takes a lot of time on my daily work, but it's really important for me to keep that, not to give it to an external society that will handle our socials and just make very proper ads or communication for them. No, I like to go to the social by myself and answer people, and that's really important for me.
Yeah, it's super important. I guess there is a slight or big difference between you guys, festivals, and an artist like Sarah, which is you are also bring services to the people. So you are responsible for those services, like where are the toilets and where can I buy food? And this is a question for you, Sarah, and thanks, Jean-Yves, because do you see this kind of a dilemma of how far do you go with this conversation? Does it kill the magic or so? Or, I don't know, but I remember working in a label and dealing with social media as many other topics, but one of the most successful artists on social media were Gesaffelstein, an electro artist, and he was super distant with his fan on purpose. It was only written in capital, so all the guidelines we put together, like you should ask questions, you should answer comments like YouTubers, you should do this and this. He was pretty much doing exactly the opposite, and it was a blast because he was so special. You see what I mean? So how do you see that, this kind of a distance versus proximity with your fans as an artist?
I guess I'm doing the same as well. I'm sure like I'm not doing the right thing, like, you know, as social media tell you to do. But I think that the most important thing is just be yourself, like, because people can really feel that. If you try to fake it, it's not going to work. And if you're just yourself, then, you know, just like, it's just like a matter of, you know, do you want to put yourself out there and just like tell your fan who you are? And I feel like, you know, it's just a vibe that you put out, and people are going to be attracted to you, you know, whether you write in capitals or you put the right hashtags and stuff like that. And I feel like it's more important for me rather than, you know, just doing the right technical thing. Just like be yourself, I guess.
Yourself. And regarding, go ahead, Andrew.
I think less is more sometimes as well. I remember being a musician in my early 20s, and you know, musical magazines, NME, Melody Maker, etc. There was all these bands going, oh, and I live down the road from you, and I'd take my dog for a walk, and here I'm eating a sandwich. And I didn't want to know that. I wanted to fantasize that you were living some extraordinary bohemian life somewhere, and the difference is not just the music, it's the lifestyle. So sometimes oversharing is a problem. You know, artists like Björk, for instance, and, you know, Massive Attack to some degree, you don't see them. the work speaks for itself, and the mystery and the engagement is based around the perverseness of actually not being able to see them all the time and not hearing everything they've got to say about everything. So there's a kind of balance to strike between oversharing and mystique and allure and fantasy. And I think music can be very brass tacks, can be very punk rock, and what you see is what you get, and you're very honest. But there's also the other area, which is it's a bohemian, creative, ethereal art form. And do you want your musical heroes and heroines to be accessible? Maybe that's not the point. Maybe So I think it doesn't fit for everyone. People need to use the technology as and when it's needed, and not overplay. Because I think if you lose, it's very hard to regain credibility, and it's hard to win it, and even harder to get it back if you lose it. And I think as a result, there's a warning really that oversharing and making too many options open for your fans might also be killing the vibe.
And Ventura, you know, and
no.
I have a question for you, because I think you already tackled that slightly before, but talking about fan engagement, also, if we take the big, let's say, internet trends, I guess we are moving into an access paradigm, like everything is accessible 24/7 and also on demand. But what I understand from the festival, for instance, this is not on demand. There are some choices, some artistic choices, and you what you said also, like the running order, and how do you see? Because we see also live streaming big boom, or let's say temporary boom. There was those artists like taking the time to read the comments and potentially play some song on request. How do you see this kind of new thing coming into the live world? Yeah. The on-demand thing. How far do you see the fans interacting with what you put together, as you said at the beginning?
The interaction, I think everybody likes interaction, but as a fan myself, I mean, when I go to a gig or a show, I want to be impacted by the artist. I don't need to tell the artist what they should do, because that's why they are artists. I'm a fan, right? So this is not a democracy purely, but this is what I think. I'm problem too old, right? So
it's good point.
My mission, I mean, having Andrew here and Sarah, I just thought about what is my mission, what is my job, and this is very simple. I mean, it's making sure that Sónar is the preferred platform, and I would say platform instead of festival, because I don't know what the post-COVID situation is going to be, whether it's online and offline. It's like, okay, and I want to make sure that Sónar is the preferred platform where artists and creative technologists want to present their works and engage with their audience, and I would say audience/community. I think it's more about a community, creating the environment where the artists can learn, collaborate with their community, because the barrier between audience and community, at least in Sónar, it's not that solid, right? How do you make this? Well, it's different. From our operational point of view, we are like a e-commerce company, right? So we have the audience, we use data, we make sure we are up-to-date data. But on the other hand, I would like to keep it non-data centric. I would also like to see how festivals are still a space for freedom, where anybody can check if I had a gin and tonic at 5 a.m. or 2 gin and tonics at 5 a.m. And then, we need to balance, or we need to think, go to the origin of what we are doing things, what we want to achieve. And the other things are tools to make that thing happen, but it's not the objective, right?
Super interesting. Andrew, I will thanks to Ventura, because this is so important, this discussion, because the future is now open for we like it or not, and with this COVID impact. And I think there is this clash of the online world led by personalized, user-centric model, where everything is made to be to make the user happy, like algorithm based. And there is the live music festival thing, which is like to your face, or it's more an expression to the people and the collective experience, collective, personalized. Maybe let's talk about, we have like 10 minutes to go, a little about technology and a positive message. I would like your take on some stuff I saw. I've been part of Next Stage Challenge, which was a great hackathon when we tried to find new solution for the live sector. And one of the most interesting solutions were about audio and audio feedbacks from the crowd, which is, I guess, one of the missing parts of today's live streaming experience. How to get the crowd, let's say, voice, noise. Are you experimenting those kind of thing with audio feedback? Let's talk a little bit about that if you want.
Yeah, so I've I mean, obviously in some of the football matches that have been run recently where there's no audience, they've been running ambient sound and also increasing the sound of the audience and the excitement based on the action. So there's some definitely interesting things going on there with regard to creating atmosphere. I think we've already been suffering for a few years from silent stages. So for instance, Massive Attack play with earphones and they have in effect a silent stage so that when you go on stage, you're not hearing amplifiers and things and the drums are all shielded and things. And I think that in of itself is a bit of a problem because musicians musicians are like an antenna for ambition and reflection. And as an audience, energy focuses on a stage. A musician and a magical musical moment happens when the musician and the focal point, or even a dancer or a theatrical actor, they respond and their body sort of responds back and heightens the experience and the connection. So I've been looking at some real-time, what they call duplex systems to see how we can create a stronger connection for the performer, because at the moment with VR and things like Fortnite, it's all very much about eye candy and everybody going to the spectacle of these immersive worlds, these fantasy worlds, but there's not very much attention being paid to how the artists can understand the inflection of the crowd, you know. And I remember David Bowie said in the 90s, he said, the internet's amazing because in the old days, it was just me presenting myself to you, all of you, and thousands of you. Now I have the chance to do one-on-one. And he used to use his social platform, his avatar platform, and get dressed up as a rabbit or some random anonymous creature. And he would go around and hang out with fans and chat to them over text, not through voice, because obviously the minute they heard a voice, they would know it's him. But he would go around and almost be like this mystery shopper, you know. And I feel like the same thing has to happen for audio. You have to have a feedback loop. So there must be a way of projecting an ambience and a collective response to an artist performing, just to get the energy levels up, because at the moment it feels like quite a flat thing to have. You know, it's similar when I just did the keynote. I'm here with Zoom and I'm talking to my camera on my screen. I have no understanding of, beyond the Q&A, I have no understanding what the atmosphere is on the other side of the presentation and things. So I think if anybody's going to focus their attentions from a tech perspective, it should definitely be, how do we increase this real-time feedback loop between artists and fans? How can we use sonic software? How can we use things like AirPods, and how can we use ambient speakers and wall bars and all those things to really drive immersion?
Super interesting. I would love to go further to some of the questions, but you mentioned Q&A, Andrew, so we might wrap up this session with some questions from the audience. Even if I would love to ask Sarah, for instance, if you have a magic wand, what kind of new feature you would like the startups listening to this talk to develop from you to create the ultimate fan engagement thing. But let's keep it for, let's go for that one. And while you are answering that one, I'm reading the question, okay?
Sure. Yeah, well, I guess for me, it's just like, it's the next stage of, you know, it's the next thing, like after social media, where you have this thing, this interaction. It's just like jumping into the next phase. And how are we going to recreate the chemistry of things? Because I think that's what Andrew is talking about. It's just like creating, you know, this feeling. So, you know, with VR and stuff, we are starting to use like vision, and we need to incorporate, I guess, other senses, which are, this thing, and whether it be for the artist or for the audience as well. So I guess that, it's just finding that thing that, makes the, that gives you a little butterfly when you play, when you're on the stage. And I guess that, that's why I don't really want to engage with that kind of Zoom performance or, just remote stuff, because you don't get that feeling. And so I guess that, that's the thing, like the chemistry. How do we make it? Yeah.
Cool. So one question again for you, Sarah. Example, or have you explored the possibility of doing paid live streaming, and which platform would you use to do that? It is pretty specific, but
yeah, I guess so. I mean, for now, I'm just like, I don't really know where I stand, and I had gig cancelled, and I don't really know what the future holds for me and my band. So I guess that at some point we'll just have to figure out a way of doing it. And I'm just like waiting for a more interesting thing and a more, I don't know, more accurate, because I just don't want to play from home and stuff. Like, I've been doing it a couple of times, sure. And it's fine, but it's not really a reflection of what I want to put out there. So
I see what you mean. It's not because you put a paywall in front of your kitchen concert that it makes it a concert, right?
Yeah, I guess it's not qualitative enough for now. So I'd rather wait and just work on something more elaborate, I guess. And I'm doing the hackathon as well with the guys. I've heard like some interesting ideas about that. So
let's see what will come from let's say gaming inspired experiences like Tomorrowland with Andrew, you mentioned also the gaming engine, the use of gaming engine, which is maybe the next thing to explore. Yes.
And a sensory feedback. I mean, my 9-year-old son has been playing on his Switch, and he does this Just Dance game, and you hold the controller and it gives you scores based on whether the moves are good enough. I think it's the same thing for consuming immersive environments at home. I'm stood up right now. I have a stand-up desk. It's gigs that where you sit down and you applaud politely were always never as exciting as gigs where you stood up and jumped around. So maybe there's somewhere in the middle where we can start using some motion and using machine vision and cameras and stuff like that to make a difference. Absolutely. Not to spy on people, but to get people moving, because I feel the movement is definitely missing, but not too far away in the technological ability to do something.
Yes, and going to another question from the crowd, which can be linked with that one. That point is for you, because we talked a lot about technology by itself, but in terms of platforms, which are the one who are now leading the way in terms of fan engagement for you? You mentioned, Jean-Yves, the old time of MySpace, which is the new one, or Sarah, because it seems Twitch is somewhere, or TikToks, whatever. But is there any kind of platforms that you would like to explore as a festival, or as a creative technologist, or as an artist? I'll let you answer.
It really depends on the audience you want to target. I mean, it's not the same 11-year-old boy or 14 that they lived in Fortnite, or 20s. I mean, there are several, and each one has his own audience, and people are using those for different reasons. It's not the same LinkedIn than Facebook, and so it's complex. I don't think there is one that can be used for all the purposes. And for me, none of them really beats live synchronicity. Right now, I mean, we have all spent our last 3 months on a Zoom, but nothing really beats being together in a bar or in a concert gig yet, right?
Yeah. Not even mentioning some questions that we will not have time to address, but yes, no platform has managed to reach synchronicity and stuff, but also no big global platform has also reached a point where they can be the friend of the artist in terms of sharing value, sharing data, you see what I mean. The value gap discussion, which we will not go there, but there is a lot of things to discuss because it used to be a discussion for the recording industry. Now the live industry maybe has some, not concern, but you see what I mean, guys. It's like, wow, Amazon is entering the live sector for real now because through Twitch. And what does it mean?
I think listening party is interesting. I find it weird, for instance, that I can listen to Spotify or Apple Music, whatever it is, on my phone, but I can't, for instance, text my friends and say, "Hey, let's listen to this song together," and have an open channel chat. They don't make it easy, but they should. That should be social listening is the thing you should be doing, and it should be as easy as iMessage or a text message or WhatsApp. But they don't. I mean, I think.
Andrew, this thing has been around for 15 years, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's not working, I guess, because of a business model problem. Because every time a platform develops that feature, like a shared playlist, or all the revenue is sucked down by the platforms, the labels, and it dies slowly. But there was a turntable thing 15 years ago. This kind of listening party with small pixel art avatars. Anyway, last question for you guys, and then it will be time to close the curtains. It's about a question from Lara to Ventura and Andrew. Collaboration between artists and community. How can this be improved? This is pretty vast. But you said, Ventura, you put together a festival. You take into consideration fans, but at the end of the day, how do you potentially can improve that in a way that works for everyone?
The way we did it is because we, like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, we find out or we discovered or we realized that most of the people that came to our festival were doing, on top of having fun, they were learning and they were keen to go one step further. So we create our kind of think tank congress, which is Sónar D. And this is the space where the community can collaborate, talk together, and create things that later on will be maybe at Sónar in the main stage, right? So we create the atmosphere where collaborations can be developed in many ways.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You can create some kind of side conversation for collaboration, but it's the magic.
Where we discuss how the future may look like, because we had the privilege of having people, clever people like Sarah, Andrew, and many others who have come there and put their work together and open their works. I think we are living in a great era where creators are very generous and they open their work and they collaborate and they share, and this is fantastic.
Yeah, this kind of co-creation, collaboration, fan-oriented. Andrew, with Björk, Massive Attack, but many others. How do you see that?
Well, artists, some artists don't want to have everything remixed and remastered and allowed to be reduced or extracted. Some people just don't want that. They want to tell a story, like an author writing a book. They want a linear narrative, and you consume that, and that's the relationship. I feel like there are obviously many ways to remix, and I mean the Massive Attack app we built was all about remixing things with your senses. So as music was responding to your heart rate and the time of day and where you were, and so I feel like there is an emotional connection you can create using technology. And I think we've got lots of challenges here, and hopefully lots of startups and budding entrepreneurs and engineers trying to figure this stuff out, because the history of recorded music has been full of innovation, from wax cylinders through to stereo headphones through to augmented reality, spatial audio. It will keep going, and the great thing is that hopefully, as we stand as humans, we'll carry on trying to figure out how to use those things to build communities and to share each other's lives. And it just feels like I don't feel bad about the fact we haven't got it right. I feel like it's a good challenge to try and figure it out.
I don't know what you think, guys, but I think it's a good it's a good wrap-up note, because it's a bit of optimism in this COVID world, and before COVID, big data, big browser world. There is a lot of room for creativity still, and with and for the communities, right?
We're only at the beginning.
Only at the beginning, but with artists at the core of this kind of community-driven thing. So, guys, Sarah, Jean-Yves, Andrew, Ventura, thank you a lot. I was privileged to host this one, and have a safe summer, guys, and also let's keep connected through this virtual summit, because we have many other super interesting talks to come. And again, thank you for your time and your insights, and see you around. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.